Good evening. We'll go ahead and call this meeting to order at 6:08 specifically for the Pearland 2024 Comprehensive Plan Joint CPAC P&Z meeting. There we go. I don't know who's leading the meeting, but I am. Mark. All right. Do we want to go ahead and just go around the room, announce who's here, just so we can get it on the record? Brandon Dansby, Chairman.
Henry Fuertes, Planning and Zoning, and CPAC.
Daryl Eisenberg, Planning and Zoning.
Nata Krishna, CPAC. Lauren Flores, CPAC. Ashley Boswell, Planning and Zoning, CPAC.
Graves, Community Development. Mike Shelton, Kimley Horn Engineers.
Josie Ortiz, Kimley Horn.
Awesome. All right. Who's in charge of the meeting? Mike? Martin?
Martin's going to start, and then
Okay.
Josie and I will take it.
All right. Have at it.
So we have started off with sending out the future land use plan, getting y'all's comments pulled together. Know that that is going to be a large portion of tonight's discussion. We also have the first 3/4, 9/8, 8/9 of the 9/11 of the comp plan. Those are currently under staff review. Make sure that everything that is supposed to be in there is in there. And once staff has kind of given a general thumbs up, we'll either send it back for additional edits, things to be put in, or we'll send it immediately out. Edits are still in. So I don't have an exact pulse on where we're at with those. With all of that said, I think I'll hand it over to Mike.
Thank you, Martin. Okay, so everyone in this room is very, very familiar with the place types. And so as familiar as we all are, I know that you sleep since the last time you saw them. So having them on the table here as a guide, and just remember that they're color coded on the plan. So the red areas on the plan, mostly around 288, are business park. Then there's some town center on the plan. And so Josie, help me focus. Okay, there's a town center over where Pearland Town Center is with the pink, and then a future one kind of Massey Oaks.
And then there's another one up north.
One up north. Commercial center is your retail, restaurants, multi-tenant. So basically what's existing all along Broadway and up north along 288 somewhat. Mixed use centers are your retail on the bottom and residential on the top floors, so multi-story ideas. And so we're looking for things there that said MU. So there's a little bit of it over off of Broadway, and it has a stripe on the legend. Professional services and industrial are the lighter purple. So down here, State Highway 35 heading out towards Alvin, I guess. And then manufacturing and warehouse is the very bright purple. Now, there is two versions of this that are kind of desaturated, and the reason for that is, or actually three, is that we want to make marks on those. It's sometimes when we have these markers and you're trying to write with a red marker on a dark one. So we have the real full color, what the actual final plan will be here, but the desaturated ones are the ones, if we have any comments today, we want to capture those there. Manufacturing warehouse is the darker purple. Urban living is the lighter pink. Compact residential is the brown. So this is your single family detached homes, duplexes, and townhomes. Traditional residential, you can see, is still the majority of the future land use plan and the majority of what's existing in Shadow Creek and other parts of the city. And then there's also two types of green, okay? There's a lighter green and a darker green. So the darker green is parks and open space, and they're notated PRK, so there's a section of that up towards Beltway 8 off of 288. And so these are what I think of as, manicured parks. So they have your playground equipment, ball fields, they're maintained. And then you have natural areas and outdoor tourism. So this Fenwick Nature Center is a little bit of that, where there's a walking trail, but there's more of a natural, the raw environment as a landscape there. And so, yeah.
Which is humorous.
Which is humorous because yeah. But, so then the last category is public use, so that's the light blue. And so we have some public use shown coming down. Yeah, so libraries, schools, civics uses, fire stations, police stations, things like that go in public use. So that's just a quick overview of what the place types are. And so just one last reminder on this process, and you all know this very well as P&Z members and as members of CPAC, the role of the future land use plan. It's not the zoning plan, okay? So if somebody comes and complains to you, hey, y'all rezone my property on the map that gets online, no, that's not the case. It's a future land use plan representing the net input from the community during the public engagement process to say these are the types of land uses that we would like to see in the future in these general areas, okay? And so then when a zoning change does come about, staff can say, yes, that's in conformance with the future land use plan, or no, that's not in conformance with the future land use plan. And that doesn't mean that somebody has to put that on that site. It just means this is generally in regard to what the future wants. So we gave you this map online. Lotta and Henry put some good comments online. One of the reasons we wanted this meeting was we didn't know what those comments would be. We didn't know if we needed to, sometimes people comment on the same parcel with different answers. We didn't have any of that kind of conflict, okay? But we want to go one by one through those comments, make sure as a group we agree with that. If you have any more comments like that, we want to pull those in and address them right here. Josie is gonna take this one as the official markup map, but feel free to, there's some pins on the table, there's some different, we can get more markers. If you wanna write on your copy, write on there. That's what they're here for. Take notes, think about it and that. But that's the agenda tonight is I was gonna let you mark and I'm gonna try to run this projector.
Okay.
But we're gonna go one by one through the comments.
Oh my God,
And,
I didn't know.
And do that. Before we head that way, does anybody have any questions on the process? Anybody have any questions on the process?
Do we have a time limit per speaker? Just asking for a friend.
No.
I mean, I guess that would be up to the chair.
Yes, it would be. Yes, it will be.
Just a confession, though, I put 2 or 3 comments only, maybe 4 or 5, I don't remember. But I got caught up doing other things, and I had it on my things to do to come back to it, and I never have. So I have a lot more to say, but
You can add comments tonight too. They don't have to be on the map.
I can do it here.
Yeah.
Here.
And I have to confess too, I went after Henry, so I kind of liked all his comments. So Henry, I didn't comment on what you had commented
Okay.
already, so.
So Josie, with this interface, I can't click on a comment and zoom to it, right?
So if you close out that, and you can go one by one.
I just have to pick them off.
Yeah.
So
And that's just me.
can I edit a field that says I've done it, like a done field? Is
Not,
that edit?
not in here.
Not here. Okay. What's the difference between Map Viewer Classic and this one?
Where are you shooting? Oh, I don't know. I just use the one that defaults.
Because I really would like to go in order and not potentially this one.
I guess I could get rid of a bottle by putting it in here.
I actually like this better, but it still doesn't zoom to the selected.
It highlights them as you're clicking on them.
Okay, there we go. Okay, I like this one better.
Okay.
All right, so the first comment, Florence, you're on the hot seat here, is located between Rice, Hatfield, and Woody. So Josie, can you maybe point to that in the near Brookside Village Park North.
We are up in,
And Florence's comment was, we just processed a variance to allow commercial development along this portion. The current zoning is split between GC and residential. That strip may be best suited for commercial land use or mixed use to support commercial uses. So Florence,
I'm right here.
yeah. So are you thinking which category seems to you or?
What do we have it as right now?
Right now, you have it as established residential estate, ERE. So those are the large lot detached single family.
Yeah, so at least, yeah. So at least along the road, it's Macard, yeah. So at least along Macard, it needs to be commercial. We wouldn't regard that as established residential.
We wouldn't regard it as a what?
Established residential estate.
So true COM.
So either mixed use or,
But also, this is where we have the conversation of zoning is not future land use. So do we want to encourage commercial development along New Macard, which is supposed to be a relief valve? Or do we want to recognize that commercial development will happen and provide an out for that to become a possibility and make it easier on them?
I don't think you got the rooftops, in that area with manufacturing to the south and, Freeway and Houston to the north, the accessibility thereof. Broadway is completely different. It's going to be commercial from one end to the other, right? Mostly. McHard is going to be similar to Magnolia, that there are residential backing up to the road. This is my opinion, of course, but from a drive count standpoint, I don't think you will not have the drive count to get commercial, the entire frontage. I would say similar to the traditional retail nodes where you're going to have it on the corners where a traffic light is, but you're not probably going to have it other than that.
Well, I mean, I was told that it's going to always be residential, it's just going to remain that way. That's what somebody with the city told me one time, no matter what. So,
We've already granted
I know.
zone changes for.
That's what's.
Fixing to say, they've got some,
so the question is, even forwarding to the new future land use, do we want to have non-conforming zoning right off the bat? Or do we want to address that with the future land use? Because currently the zoning along all that is commercial. Along that section of Macau, it's split zoning between residential and commercial. The southern portion is commercial, and then a little bit to the north is residential.
I thought we were right here. I see public on the south.
Between Hatfield and Woody.
Yeah.
so she's talking about this one here.
ERE, I thought ERE was established residential like the old.
Exactly.
It was a large lot.
And they are large lots. It's just that the back end of those lots, which never had a road to them,
Right.
was zoned incorrectly, in my opinion.
Okay.
And now there is a road back there. So do we want to recognize that the zoning is in place and change the future land use to remove the hurdle, to remove the oddity
Yeah.
of having ERE there, or set it out as a commercial area?
So I think what I struggle with is say you do react to the zone change that was made and change that to future land use map, which is looking down the road, right? So the question is, do you just change that one parcel or do you go along the entire strip? And if you go along the entire strip, you kind of counteract the argument that you don't want another Broadway, you don't want strip commercial along these roads. So to me, just because a zone change has been made, I don't think that this FLUP is going to reflect every zone change. That's not the purpose of the comp plan.
Right.
I think this is a vision. So that's what I worry about. If you do that, then I agree what you're saying, Henry, that there is no market. But look at already somebody asked for a zone change, did they not? So,
So it wasn't
right, so then,
it wasn't a zone change, so the existing zoning is commercial.
right, but what was the
But it's
variance for
It was
then?
a variance to be from
Site
the
development standards.
zoning district requirements. So it was like reduced setbacks to be able to put commercial there. But there's already commercial zoning there. So the
Right.
question is, do we want to maintain
The
that?
proposed development sounds like it's in accordance with what the zoning is.
Exactly.
And so then you're gonna have a future land use that's ERE, which would be already at odds with A, what it's zoned for, and B, what it's actually developed as.
So is the entire strip zone commercial then? Or is it just one property?
No, the
The
entire
industrial.
strip.
Oh.
Well, there was a 12 acre on the corner, the southeast corner, northwest corner of McHard and McCalla. That came in, that was a gas station, but I thought they CUP'd the entire 12 acres or whatever, I don't remember. CUP on
They-
the gas station only.
Did it for the acre and a half,
Okay, the rest of it is,
open for commercial.
okay.
But I don't want to jump, I want to focus on Florence's topic first. And then we'll,
No, and that
Drop
was
it.
part of it though, because it's an adjacent property, is the whole thing that you're saying similar to that 12 acres that's.
so the, part of the argument I'll make in favor of making that change is we're fixing to have 5 to 10 years of construction on Broadway where people are going to have to change their habits or deal with the consequences of the TxDOT widening. So having these areas that aren't necessarily on the regular path may be a benefit for, a new development to spring forward. Is this the appropriate location for that to potentially take place? That's y'all's call to make.
Too much commercial to be all frontage. That's my opinion.
I think, again, going back to a comp plan perspective, like what do your economic development analysis and your market analysis show? Like if Henry says there's already too much commercial, then should the future land use plan be adding more commercial knowing that it's saturated already? I don't know. Like what is the relationship between all the studies and research that has been done to this map? How does it translate it? Is it just then reacting to what's there on the ground, which is okay because if it's already zoned, then that's another problem, right? So we just have to resolve that.
Well, I'd say also keep in mind that, so as we've added some of the missing middle market housing choices, I'm going to say additional per capita, per acre, you're going to have that population that may support additional commercial beyond what you have today. So this is a 50-year plan. When you look at the fully built-out condition, where you have some of these compact residential, mixed use, the not quite multifamily, but more dense than traditional single-family residential, you're gonna have more rooftops and therefore a better market for some of these commercial.
So based on your projections, then would there be enough rooftops to support this commercial? Whatever form it is, neighborhood
A
or...
lot of we're not granular enough to be a parcel by parcel analysis like this.
No, in overall, I mean, like when you say you added, the missing middle,
Yeah.
what did it do to your densities is the
Yeah, it
question.
definitely increased the densities and,
Yeah.
the ratios of commercial that you have shown, we increase that across the board in what the future land use plan shows. So, I mean, adding commercial along this entire right of way is not gonna move that marker on a granularity that's at the level of comp plan.
Okay.
But, so that's why this board is important, because y'all see cases come in, y'all see the perception, and so that's why this decision is not one that, you know, from the staff perspective, they're raising the issue that this is inconsistent between what it's actually zoned as and what it's developing as. And our recommendation would be to, before this is adopted, to go ahead and minimize those inconsistencies. So, you know, I see two questions on the table. One question is just the part here along McCard between Woody and Hatfield to some distance back, which we could match the zoning map. And then the second question would be the longer corridor along McCard. So to the first question, we would definitely recommend match what zoning is saying.
And on, you know, the flip side of what Mike's saying, if y'all really and truly feel like McCard should not have the zoning that it does have and that the land use is out there, it's perfectly fine to say ERE is what should be there. And once the future land use plan is adopted and we go to make changes, either staff initiated, council initiated, wherever, this can be one of those areas where we look at it and say, nope, some map, you know, in the 70s, 80s, 90s, whoever did it got it wrong, it should be residential.
And I'll throw one other thing is that one of the differences that'll happen between Broadway and McCard, hopefully, is as y'all develop that, you're doing a little bit different access management and driveways.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, some of the worries about having commercial along McCard, you know, definitely a commercial use along there will add more traffic than a ERE use. But access management of definitely not having a driveway every 20 feet will definitely create a different traffic pattern on that than you have on Broadway right now.
And just, I know I'm talking on both sides, but also when I look at the map, I don't see that there is any commercial there. So the argument can also be as the area densifies with residential density, this might provide an area for local commercial, like neighborhood commercial, right? Because I don't see anything in what quarter-mile radius there.
Yeah, I know that somebody's talked to me about putting an event center and a
Right.
kitchen
So
commissary kind of
that might
deal.
be, like, if you want a walkable community, then just all these uses might help. I know, I'm just talking both sides, but it's like, yeah.
I think it's such a new road. We're second guessing ourselves all the way through this because we're still not sure how this is going to develop. I think we all agree that there's going to be portions of it that are going to be commercial up and down. There's going to be portions that are going to stay residential, and those residentials are going to fight to keep it residential. Every meeting they come to talk to us. So I think it's going to be. I mean, then you get into spot zoning and you get into some of that issues as well. And but I think it will start to dictate what is needed as time goes on. In my opinion, I think it's still. I mean, it's a brand new road. It's not even open yet. Still, sorry, I had to put that in there.
I'd either put it traditional residential or I'd put it compact residential. I mean, you know, or I wish we had an in-between. Large lot development, I wouldn't see it at all.
I think that's going to be portioned up. I think we're running out of land to build houses on, and I think you're going to peel those bigger lots into smaller ones, and that's what we're going to see more of than anything. In my opinion.
Josie, can you talk about secondary permitted uses within?
I was just
ERE?
looking that up.
Nice.
So there are, as Mike mentioned, secondary land uses with these place types that we've created. So it's, you know, we call it compact residential in some places, but the secondary land uses are civic and institutional, which is across the board.
Sure.
Schools, parks, and then neighborhood serving commercial. So compact residential would allow some of that neighborhood residential or commercial.
So then the color doesn't need to change because
Well, this color right now is ERE.
Right.
What you're reading, CR, Josie?
Yes,
Okay.
Oh.
So does
Yeah,
ERE have
CR.
secondary uses that include any commercial? 'Cause I
it
don't
does
think
not,
No, that's large
and neither
lot.
does traditional. So compact residential is the lowest form of residential that includes commercial.
I'd be good with compact residential.
So
Is
maybe
it-
compact along this both sides.
The other side is being built out as detention, which is why it's shown as public.
So a regional detention spot there?
Mhm.
Got it. There's your, you'll have, if it's regional, you'll have people wanting to come in or developers wanting to come in with some good ground cover, you know, because they can access that, right? You get full use of the land.
I'm not,
If it's one of those regionals that you can buy into.
I'm not certain if it's one you can buy into. I know it was regional as it draws all of McCard. I don't know if they have additional capacity.
Got it.
I was fairly upset that they did all of that with good general commercial land.
Yeah, well, on the corner, I mean, look what we have rezoned along McCard. If you go from Cullen to 35, what's been rezoned, we had a couple along Max Road, or is it Max or is it Reed Road at that point? Remember, because they weren't sure, there's an existing road that connects, and we rezoned that. And then they came in 2 weeks later or a month later, and they rezoned where the road is going. But again, that's on a corner, and that's where commercial likes to gravitate to, because you have traffic lights, you have, you know, all that ease for their customers to get in and out. Other than that, similar to me, it's similar to Magnolia. There's not a lot of commercial development on there. There's so much on 518, and the traffic counts are so high on 518. I don't think you're going to get them in these other areas other than the corners. And major corners are pretty defined corners at that.
I'm hearing compact residential. How are we feeling about that?
It's just fixed to make that.
That was 20 minutes on one comment.
20 minutes on one, 17 more to go, plus whatever isn't a direct comment. Okay, to that end, we'll go to comment number 2. And that is up here on Makawa and the Burlington Northern property, and the said, is this small strip viable manufacturing and warehouse? So it's an odd triangle-shaped lot, and I think that the question is that with setbacks, it may not be entirely developable as manufacturing and warehouse. Where is it again? So we're looking,
North
guy
of
here.
McCard?
This little triangle piece.
Oh. It takes me forever to get my bearings.
Between McCard and I'm
Yes.
sorry.
Yeah, the railroad tracks are on the east side of the property.
just right off of South Park Cemetery.
Oh, is that the one that has a pipeline running across it?
What does them if they're?
Yeah,
Yeah, no kidding.
maybe, there's a structure
There's
right there.
something there.
Yeah.
No, I'm thinking the one at Broadway and McCard that has the pipeline.
When you're going down Makawa, there's that stoplight that has the itty bitty gas station there. It's the property
Brookside-
across
Brookside
directly on
gas
the other
station.
side.
Okay. Okay, I got you. Well, and they're expanding Makawa, right?
Right.
That's at least on the immediate drawing board.
Because the question is, what else can it be? Because it's next to the railroad tracks.
Detention.
Well, detention, townhomes, compact residential will go anywhere.
Yeah, but you're gonna put them right.
I mean, go into Houston, the Heights, they go into anything. They'll put it in a shoebox if you
You're
leave
gonna
a
put them right
shoebox
up
on
against
the
the
curb.
railroad tracks? Probably not. And there's setback requirements.
The south end of 35.
Yeah, well,
So at a point 1,000 feet down from the tip, it's only 300 foot across. So with setbacks, that's not, that whole section for sure isn't developable as pretty much anything.
Except a detention center.
I was gonna say a detention or a park would.
I was gonna say a
Yeah.
park.
Yeah.
I'd put it as, what is it,
Just
public?
leave it.
But also with it being one whole tract, you know, that's the fortunate
Somebody
part.
can use it for detention
Parking lot or something, I mean, it's
Yeah.
just about what it's,
And Josie, back to the point on secondary uses, on manufacturing and warehouse, what are allowable secondary uses?
Supporting office and commercial, civic and institutional, and parks.
So civic and institutional, which would include the detention, is already allowed secondary use.
and
This is
parks.
or yeah, I'd just leave it to,
Just leave it.
Okay,
let it run.
let it run, okay.
That only took a minute, Mike.
Yeah, we're good.
Five.
With this
I
reduction,
can't promise
next one will be 2
anything,
seconds.
This is we should look, placing this in the property to the south, keep the MW. So I think that this is looking on Main Street, just north of McCard here, and we have a large lot that's commercial center, and then right here. Not to put words in your mouth, Lawrence, but you're looking at this one potentially being manufacturing warehouse too, so cutting this lot.
Oh, that's what the Alice Street,
No, it's north of.
no, I mean, I know, but that's the weird one, remember we tried to do
Yeah.
a car wash there,
Car
and
wash.
all kinds of stuff, try to go in.
Oh, I thought
And
that.
that's the
That's right
storage,
next to the animal
That
hospital.
is south,
that's the storage unit right there.
yeah.
Yeah. And there's a pipeline right where your arrow is, see, you can see it cut through there.
Didn't a storage unit or somebody come in for rezoning for that? I thought we did a rezoning on that about a year ago.
And so what's the question on the
No,
rezone?
we haven't done that one.
To look at cutting this bit here,
Making that all manufacturing and warehouse.
just make it consistent with the
So we
pieces.
have an
that-
isolated piece of
And what is it?
manufacturing up there, and then we have commercial and then manufacturing to the south.
What's it zoned now? I don't know my colors.
Well, it's, future land use is commercial. Do we have a zoning map layer that we can add to this? Or if we can't do that in this?
Well-
without going
I mean,
back
that's,
to
I know
that?
we're not supposed to worry about that.
I mean, that's.
Again, the manufacturing warehouse, there is the secondary, supporting office and commercial.
Yeah, I would look at that as you either crop it and make it all industrial or crop it and make it all commercial.
I'd crop and make it all commercial. I mean, you're never gonna get rid of that storage facility right there.
But
You can't-
storage facilities permitted in industrial.
Yeah, it's a secondary
That's a
use in
secondary
industrial.
use.
But to the same point that we were talking about earlier, is that tract large enough to put industrial warehouse?
It's gonna be an issue with the pipeline running in the middle of it.
But I feel like that tracks may be more suitable for industrial than commercial.
You're gonna have industrial backed up to to those houses right there too.
Yeah.
That's what buffering's for.
Well, yeah.
Well, yeah.
For the dumpsters.
Every zone change we have for something that, they don't care about the buffering, they don't want it to exist, period. Right?
Not in my backyard.
Look what they got already in the back, their backyard. They got a big store, is that a water tank?
Where is that, to the north?
To the south of McCard.
Oh, down Profax.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a water tank, that's city's
That's
property.
been there for,
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
I mean, I think we're splitting hairs. It's a use allowed already, and I think we either leave it alone or,
I think it's more for consistency.
Yeah.
And that's what
I'd
a
go
lot of my
commercial.
comments were gonna be about, consistency. So, and making blocks fit better
Yes.
within one type of use. So I've heard some commercial, I've heard industrial,
What is it to the north, the blue?
Public?
it's a cemetery.
Got it. Those people still vote.
Right.
Uh,
Is it zoned?
Only on one side.
Let's not go there.
And people are dying to get money.
Yeah.
People are dying to get in, right? I think you've got manufacturing to the south, you got manufacturing way up to the north, and you got plenty of it.
But also 35 is where you want the industrial.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and we got about 1,000-year
Let's take a
supply of
vote.
it.
All in favor of manufacturing with
right hand.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Yeah, I think clean it up, make it manufacturing. It wouldn't
Commercial.
matter at the end of the
It's
day.
never gonna
because
change.
The secondary and the primary uses and the zone change is what's going to be
well, the only,
the issue.
Yeah, the challenge that I have as a commissioner is that when staff comes and says, well, the future land use plan is blah, 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 I mean, that's not like, well, we talked about it, we really weren't sure, but, I mean, the comment is made, this is manufacturing, that's the future land use plan. Now you gotta go against it. And
that's
you
what I
can
was gonna
tell by-
say. Martin mentioned earlier that this is not a rezone discussion.
Understand.
No, but it is, because that's
That's
exactly
right.
what happens. Every time it comes in, staff says, or someone says, well, the future land use plan says that, well, then you just told me what it was gonna be. You
Then-
just, you know,
How
so.
about this? For this area, can we agree to circle back to the Highway 35 master plan? See what it says for this area and just go with whatever was previously
That,
supposed to be there?
Well, I think the other thing
No.
we need to keep in mind
That's
is
a
that
hell
with
no.
the new place types, you have the secondary uses. And so unlike what we had, which was strictly like if it's industrial, it's industrial, this one has the secondary uses which would allow commercial, which will support commercial uses. So we do
The
have
manufacturing?
greater flexibility with the place type.
And am I right in saying that if you go for industrial, it will allow a wider range of uses versus keeping it commercial, so you have more flexibility?
Well, and
And
there's-
with E and C, you could go, any zoning will fit that, right, especially secondary or primary,
Exactly.
so.
Well, and there's still of usable land south, I mean, you know, on that strip. So, I mean, at some point, they may come in and want to do an expansion. Or want to, there's a small manufacturing building that wants to go in adjacent to the storage unit. So, I mean, we're going to see it again eventually. It's gonna happen.
Give them more flexibility, I feel.
With the manufacturing.
but you're saying if we make the current storage facility manufacturing, we give them flexibility?
Yes, because it allows secondary uses of commercial.
For more
And
uses.
so if they come and they want a zoning which is commercial, it will still be consistent with the future land use because of their flexibility.
If the tornado hit that and it
Right.
was 50% damage, they could still rebuild?
Someday, yeah. Maybe.
All right.
Yeah.
I
Because
can see.
if you remember, we've seen like offices and self-storage facilities, and we have struggled with that too. And so
Yes.
you just need to, can be like so restrictive, right? How are you going to enforce some of these things? Let there be an office, so be it, you know? So change your land use to make it all allowable. Because from a practical perspective, you send your code enforcement officer out and say, oh yeah, you're running an office there, or something else, or somebody's living here. I mean, it becomes a big deal. What is the problem in having an office in the self-storage, right? At the end of the day.
Happens a lot. But a lot of the new self-storage
They
units
have
are doing
it,
that.
yes.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Because it offers them the flexibility and, you know, people want affordable offices.
Hybrid options.
Been doing it in Houston. I like it.
Yeah.
All right, do we have a consensus here?
Manufacturing.
Manufacturing?
Manufacturing.
Right here.
Next.
Next is.
Down there off McKeever.
Okay. Thank you, you got sharper eyes, maybe you should be driving, not me. McKeever and south of Berry, and it's public use right now, and the comment says, this portion is already zoned and being subdivided for single-family residential. Future land use should reflect the zoning land use, so traditional residential.
Well, I think that comment was for the entire thing, not just the public use. I mean, you have a town center there, I think in pink. I think that's what that is.
Yes.
That's never gonna happen. I don't care what you say, what road's built, that's never gonna happen there. Town center needs a freeway, lots of traffic, you don't have, I mean, you might wanna turn the tape off. This is when the public says, I want, and that got put on there. You already have landowners, my boss being one, that's purchased land, he didn't purchase, he's developing for somebody that purchased. It's going to be single family. It's traditional real estate. There is a portion that's compact residential. I think planning and zoning approved compact residential, city council did. I didn't want it. But I think that's it's going to be, except for maybe that corner, which may develop as a retail spot, small.
It's McKeever and what?
Veterans.
McKeever and Veterans.
Pearland Sykes.
Pearland Sykes is veterans, and on the north it's veterans.
So based on the current subdivision and planning that's going on, what would it be?
Whatever, right? If it's already being developed, then
Right. Why are we going to put all this other happy stuff on there?
Be like the compound residential?
Yeah, I guess it would be a mix.
It's going to be traditional residential and a little bit of compact residential, whatever the city and would allow. There's a market for townhomes, not your current townhomes that's in that D.R. Horton project on, not that type, 3 to 6 units, 30 feet apart, or 30 feet of platted lot. I'm talking about the other kind, like the Sullivan Brothers type, and then the do we call it urban
Urban living?
living? I think there's an appetite for that, and I think there's a market for it, and I think you could get some of that on there. I thought city council approved, and planning and zoning may have, I was out, but there was a builder, Chesmar, that puts those 4 units in 120 by 120. So it's really a 30-foot lot, but it's the way they spaced them out more in a square, like, that is still,
Yeah, we have that
it's
process.
platted, or it's in that process,
Yeah,
right?
it's in
So
that process.
I think you could get some of that in there, but it's going to be traditional real estate otherwise. Traditional
Residential.
residential.
Okay.
So the Blue Public needs to go to compact residential, the MU needs to go to traditional, and the TC needs to come down to a smaller area and have some urban living backfill it.
I'm not saying that. I don't,
And again, I'm
Oh,
trying
okay.
to consolidate ideas.
I agree with more residential. I don't agree with traditional residential. I mean, we keep saying over and over again that we want these diversity housing options. I would do more urban living or compact residential versus putting traditional residential there personally. And if we're saying the town center is not an option, that we're really not gonna get that kind of traffic, then I guess another housing option inserted there versus the town center, if we're saying that that's there, but it's really not gonna happen. So I guess and this is just my comment, I would like to see different types of housing options versus traditional if we're changing these. We got enough traditional. And I mean, Pearland, we're limited on real estate as is. And if we're trying to get more people in or have housing options for people, I don't think you get to do that with your traditional housing. But I mean, everybody knows that's how I feel.
Would mixed-use center allow as secondary uses some medium density residential?
Yes, mixed use does.
And can you
So
define
can
mixed
have-
use?
So that might be something where you have local commercial.
So
malls.
mixed use, the primary land uses are retail, commercial, apartments and condos, senior housing, hotels, entertainment centers, service, office, and live workshop. And then secondary is hotels, civic and institutional, schools, parks, and community. So truly mixed use. Yeah.
You're not going to get that there.
Townhomes,
Now, when you start talking about, especially with Massey Oaks being down the road and stuff, when you start talking about apartments and stuff, they're gonna come out of the woodwork.
I didn't say apartment.
I know you didn't, she did.
I think, and I support exactly what you're saying with the different types of housing. In my mind, I think where we differ is, I see that as more for infill spots. But when we have a blank slate like this, I don't know that I say all of it needs to be the different types. Traditional, I think, would be the base, and then I think you're going to have some offshoots around that base. If you think of a master plan community, Shadow Creek Ranch, it's mostly traditional real estate, and then they put multifamily, some townhome projects, some this, some that. And I think that's what you see in your master plans. I don't know that you could get all the different types with that huge amount of acreage. I don't know that it would,
Oh,
there's not enough acreage.
again, I
for
think
that.
we're in agreement that it should be residential, is that correct? From public, mostly residential. So now we're splitting hairs, we're trying to be developers to tell somebody that density, non-density, big, short, small, wide, big, that's not our job. I mean, our job is just to say, do we feel like it's residential? Yes. Okay, what level do we think the future would hold? You know, compact or not? And that's kind of it. That's
Yeah,
what,
compact, yeah.
and, you know, allowable uses, open it up, and still, somebody's gonna come in and ask to do something that is not part of this plan. So we just do the best we can. We feel like it feels better as residential here, fine, we're good with that. What is that? So we boil it down to residential, and where can we allow for the more perfectly fit type of product that we aren't developers to do, to go in there. So if we're compact residential, is everybody kind of wrangled that one, comfortable with that? It gives multiple uses, allows for kind of a blank slate. Okay, that would be my suggestion.
Okay, so where it's not compact residential currently, we are making it compact. How do we feel about the park?
The what?
The park.
The park.
It's not going to happen.
Okay.
You know, no matter what we do, somebody's gonna come in and wanna do something that,
Sure, yeah.
With-
Up zone it or down zone it.
yeah,
You know?
so.
One thing to keep in mind is that when the Parks Master Plan came through 2 years ago, this area was intentionally left untouched because they knew that there were some developments fixing to come in. So I wouldn't say that there shouldn't be some sort of planned amenity, planned space, but that, you know, that area should have something built into it.
Well, it looks like it's got an offshoot. Is that a trail system maybe that it
There's a,
There's a creek drainage way.
drainage? Okay.
Isn't that the
Like it's actually the American Canal.
canal? Yeah.
yeah.
Cuts through there.
I don't think you're going to get a park. Too expensive to go over that thing for a park roadway, so.
Hey, we have.
Across the street, there's parkland.
But also, we've had developers decide that the juice is worth the squeeze and buy a
Yeah.
bridge.
Yeah.
So,
Like the one by Buc-ee's.
I'm thinking of the one that's here in between Veterans and the neighborhood that just got built.
Oh, vehicular bridge, not a pedestrian.
No, it was a pedestrian bridge.
Next to the park, right, next to Centennial? Park?
Yeah, yeah. Right here off Magnolia and
Yep.
Creek Bend, I think. You can't see it from Magnolia, but there is a
It's by the
bridge
park,
there.
isn't it? Right by the, whatever that park is where they play softball and.
Dance club?
No,
Oh, Centennial?
Centennial Park.
Centennial, yeah.
Yeah.
that's what it is.
Okay, so Josie, what have you heard said about the changes here? Summarize and make sure we have consensus.
Everything that is not compact residential should be compact residential.
Okay. Everybody good with that?
Do you want
And
to
the-
keep some commercial at the hard corner of Veterans and McKeever?
Yeah, I mean, that's what's going to happen.
Maybe have that as mixed use?
Perfect.
Okay. Moving on to the next one. so we're 35 and Bailey. And the comment is, this area could be commercial or mixed use since it is sandwiched between the two roads and the residential subdivision. So right now it's, future land use is professional services and industrial, and it's sandwiched between traditional residential and commercial on this side over here. So I think, Lawrence, not to put words in your mouth again, but we're talking about from Bailey down, or are you talking
Yeah.
about?
Just that hard corner, the
Just this-
corner between Bailey and Main, south.
Is that where the trailers are parked at right now?
Yeah, the
Well, that's the
Trailer
southern
zones.
part of it.
This,
It's between there and the road.
The rest of it is just, I mean, it's been recently zoned commercial, so yes.
All good?
That northern part, is that in question?
It can be.
Hold on.
Well, there's a grocery store around town looking, and they want that corner. Just saying.
So go ahead and show it as commercial?
That's, I'm just giving the information, I shouldn't say anything.
Sure.
Is it, and what is it again? Professional services and what?
Industrial, so it's super light industrial.
Will it allow secondary uses of a grocery store?
Civic and institutional uses, commercial, serving primarily industrial buildings and parks.
So not
Not-
exactly the
Exactly.
secondary use.
School district owns it, it's not like they're gonna farm with it unless.
Yeah.
Single family
The
residence.
school district's not gonna let commercial go in, like, they got mad when after the fact, but the one across the street went in, what's it called, the pipe company? Number one taxpayer, the new one is in the
oh,
public.
that industrial,
That
that,
industrial,
They
Yeah.
sold them the land.
I know, but they were mad, they've complained about it from day one, said we never should have sold it.
What do they want?
Not that.
I wish that school board gentleman would show up on this one, because, I mean, I'd love to, no, really, I mean, he's the one saying that kindergarten has less enrollment than high schoolers. Does he want compact residential on the land that they own to get more kids? That would be an ideal location, if you ask me. Compact residential can go between, can be next to a light industrial user like that, and then the other residential. Dang it. You got his number?
It's not just him. School board, plural.
Larry Berger, superintendent.
Nice guy.
what is the one across the street now? Yeah.
Commercial center?
And anytime somebody comes up,
I have a question. So when
Come out
we talk
first.
about compact residential and urban living, everything that's outside of that traditional residential, what is the vision for where that should be placed? Because even when we have citizens that come and people are talking about placing townhomes, different places, you get citizens that say, well, I don't want that near my neighborhood or whatever the case may be. So while we're trying to plan this vision, what does that look like for everybody? Like, do you want it more of a neighborhood feel, or, because I know you said that places where there is that land that's available, that's where things like that should go. So is it just place it where you can? Does it need to be more of a neighborhood feel? That's what I think about when I'm looking at some of these empty spots, and the justifications for what should go there and what shouldn't.
So typically you do want some kind of buffer. So for example, we have that manufacturing warehouse in the dark purple, just north of there. I don't think you'd want to place compact residential necessarily right next to it. You'd probably want a buffer of something between those two is typically how it's
Okay.
done.
But I think what she's talking about, when I think about compact residential, and I think about the styles that we've been looking at and stuff, and mainly, the one that's really got all of our attention right now is Sullivan Brothers. I think of Old Town Site. I think that gives an old town feel. You know, I think just taking it and putting it out in the middle of a cow pasture somewhere, it doesn't work. That's my opinion. I think that it's got to be more into that old town site, that old town site.
And maybe we should read what compact residential is, because I thought it was, in my opinion, or in my head, it was those lots less than 50 footers that we call traditional, a 40 footer, a 30 footer, a 45 footer, you know, but.
Is that what it is?
So it can be single-family detached duplexes, townhomes, but the place type feel of it is that more dense, kind of walkable, more urban area. So it's between, you know, your urban living, your super dense compact, and single-family is kind of the feel.
And the secondary use that's allowed already in that is neighborhood serving commercial. With the idea, it says in the place type description, it may contain a small number of commercial businesses to support the neighborhood.
It's a compact network.
Like, in the middle of a cow pasture, it doesn't make sense because it's the context, like what's happening around it. Where would you
Yes.
walk to, right? Like,
Yes.
And do you even have sidewalks to take you to
Yeah.
a park? So I think that's what we need
Right.
to focus on.
The
is-
character of
Yeah.
where we're putting it.
But
Yeah.
it's
Yes.
also a cow pasture today, but when Pearland is completely developed out,
Yeah,
Right.
but it's residential below it, you've got the railroad tracks behind it, you've got Highway 35 across. You're not gonna cross 35, you're not gonna be able to cross the railroad tracks. It's traditional residential south of it, and then you got commercial industrial above it. It's not landlocked, because you obviously can get to it, but it's walkable landlocked
Yeah.
in this particular case.
Yes.
Right.
I agree.
mean-
No, this, I agree, this
Yeah.
case, but I was just going with your,
I was
I
just
was thinking
saying.
cow pasture somewhere in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah,
I don't think this is
like the
that.
other that we,
Yeah.
Actually, your question's great though, but, and it, where I see it happening, a lot of times and that's why I threw back the infill spots. There's a reason certain parcels, if you drive up and down O'Day or Harkey or, you know, those roads, they haven't developed yet. Perhaps they don't have the water and sewer line on, I think it's Roy Road. There's a 20-acre parcel that's beautiful for development. We had it under contract at one point. You got to go 1,000 feet with a forced main to hit another forced main, the sewer, right? So otherwise, you'd have to put a, what do you call the lift station. It's too costly for that, only 20 acres. Now, if you could compact, sell smaller lots, therefore sell more lots, and put more AV on the ground, and then you get more mud reimbursements, blah, 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 blah. All of a sudden, that makes economic sense, and those parcels would get developed. So for me, it was kind of market-driven, the thinking of, and that's why I picked the infill spots.
so
For
this,
something that's huge, maybe not.
so the initial comment was on the south part, right, south of Bailey?
Commercial.
Commercial, so, I mean, I think, are we splitting this piece up and talking, you know, south being one piece and north being another piece, or are we looking at this as a whole?
I think we're talking south of Bailey.
But if you
I
wanted
think
to
we'd
have
already
that
agreed.
stair-step approach, there's nothing saying that it has to follow, you know, this polygon.
Right.
If you want to do a cut here and have this be commercial and this be compact, you know,
Yeah.
that's available.
I put commercial along that entire frontage of 35, you know, 500 or 600 feet deep, honestly. And then I put compact residential behind it. And the reason I say that is, you know, getting residential on 35 right now, there's a reason why that other neighborhood to the east stopped X amount of feet from 35.
So you said compact residential behind the commercial, would you want it adjacent to that manufacturing warehouse?
Unless you want to put multifamily back there, and that's a
Well, you already have, not to get too far down a rabbit hole here, but the new development there south of it, Madonia, already griping about the stuff on industrial, because it's industrial and it backs up into their backyard. Well, that's too bad. I mean, they were there first. and,
That's right.
You know, and again, in the industrial, that one used to be, and it may still be, the #1 tax-paying entity in the city of Fairleigh because of their inventory tax. So they're not going anywhere. It's a pipe company, with specialized pipe company. So, you know, you put a buffer there, that's fine, but
That's a good point, because, you know, they talk about, there was a whole big debate on why manufacturing matters, right? And if you give up land, that's fine for manufacturing and let it develop into something else, like single family. At the end of the day, the return of investment on the land is low, and then once it's converted, you can never get
Yeah.
back your manufacturing. So
Well,
you
yeah.
have to be careful.
I mean, y'all know, I was on PEDC when we had this whole piece, marketed it quite a few times to Aldi, wanted to put a manufacturing, warehouse facility there, and more than one, but the people that owned it, Judd, Alexander, and another one, didn't want to sell. Well, they both died, well, then suddenly it goes up for sale, and they sell it to residential. So, you know, I think we're being forced to sell industrial property as residential or converted, because that's allegedly the only thing that people want to buy it for. But I hate taking industrial offline and putting the tax burden onto a home in any way, shape, or form, whether it's fire department or anything else. So, I mean, I would be less inclined, I'd want to keep as much targeted industrial as possible or commercial as possible to get the tax base, to keep it that way. I mean, that RV, mobile home deal's it's for sale, but I mean, there's no buyers, it's been for sale. Unofficially, but officially it has.
Well, I don't think many people want to put manufacturing across the street from a high school. And I'm
Well, the
surprised.
high school doesn't want it across the street from the high school.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I don't think,
And since they own it, they're not going to get rid of it unless
Yeah.
they know who's going to do what now.
Yeah.
Maybe 500 or 600 feet of commercial along this to buffer.
Sure.
Sure.
And then the question, and I think it's what Martin says, do you leave this, which is right now professional services industrial, or do you?
I think because of the stuff that's happened south of there, I don't like it, but I don't think it's gonna be anything but residential in some capacity.
What if you make that whole portion commercial on this whole section here, and then do compact here with commercial along here, so you'd have like compact here and then commercial.
Commercial's not going to go that deep.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no user. You're more likely to get a manufacturing use going that deep, and I don't think you're ever going to have one. Just the dynamics of that property, you're not going to get it. I think that right there, what you have is commercial. The rest needs to be something else.
What kind of commercial?
Right there on the corner. Tell you, there's a grocery store, and the people that are developing the south right now and have it under contract are also looking up north and would love the zoning to be there for them to do a grocery store. I didn't say that.
I think it's straight up COM.
What about a
just like
business
across
park?
the street.
Yeah, just three corners are commercial.
Good use, right? That would allow a
So
business.
we'll run 500 or 600 feet of commercial along here. And then the question, I guess, is this bit adjacent to the manufacturing warehouse. Right now it's professional. What would be another use on the table for that?
Business park?
Business park?
Business park will work. Low impact, quieter, the residential folks might have less of a gripe. You get small mom and pops, you get plumbing, whatever.
Plumbing, electricians with the warehouse.
That fits in business park? Perfect.
Yeah, I agree.
So all the way to Bailey, or just maybe to this dividing line? Like here?
Yeah.
Would business park allow retail as a secondary use then? Because then that will
Yeah,
solve,
It does.
if a grocery store wants to go there, they can do that.
It does. Retail, restaurants,
Yeah.
hotel, civic, and industrial.
So that looks like that's a good category there.
Okay, so we got commercial for a 500 or 600 foot strip along 35. This is BP. So Josie, are you marking this on the?
I want to get it set before I mark it.
Gotcha. And then what about this remaining section to Bailey?
Not to the corner.
Yeah, not to the corner, 500 feet off of the corner.
I'll mark the commercial.
Business park?
If you can get it residential, go for it. I mean, that's the only thing that's the only thing that the residential below it is gonna want.
You already have residential on that.
That little alley.
Yeah.
alley.
So one of the choices that was made, while we were still developing 7 iterations before this, was not to put any additional traditional residential. So with that in mind, I might suggest going compact residential.
You may not get it, but it's.
It's kind of one of those infill spots that we talked about, you've got different things on each side, and it's.
Okay, so we got commercial, BP, compact residential here, and then south of Bailey, this piece behind the commercial. Maybe just continuing the compact residential that's already here,
Is that compact residential?
or is it traditional?
That's traditional.
Mobile home sales.
I actually think that wherever those parcel lines are, I mean, I think that's pretty close to the parcel lines, is it not?
It
It's
is.
following, that whole thing's gonna be commercial.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay,
it's
just
the
out
site
to
plan
here.
I saw.
Okay, just up to Bailey.
All right. So just fill commercial back.
Yep.
Okey-dokey. Next.
Nice.
This one is, we are located a little further north, south of Magnolia, near Waterworth Way, west of the railroad track. This comment says, the portion with existing residential needs to be TR, so I think it's just when we drew it.
That was a GIS mistake.
We drew the line too far south, it needs to be north.
Perfect.
All
Record time.
right. Record time. If we can do the rest of them that fast,
Right.
we'll be home before the Super Bowl.
Before the Super Bowl?
It's a week and a half away.
Okay, so we're back up near the north side, near Cullen and Brookside. And so this one says, not gonna be town center, not the correct location, should be residential or compact residential, basically from McCard to Alamo.
I wonder who said that.
A very distinguished member.
What? Oh, is that me?
Yeah.
I wasn't paying attention. Is it this one?
Yeah.
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 Actually, I was hoping you would argue with that, comment, and see if you argue with yourself. That doesn't make sense.
And it's zoned, I mean, it's.
Town center.
Yeah.
Town center there.
It's a weird spot for a town.
No, it's
center.
You can't even sell one bit of retail on that corner of McCard and Cullen right now. How are you gonna get a whole town center?
I think,
How about a mixed use center, because we already have some commercial, right?
what's next to it that's not showing any colors?
Mixed use,
Oh, that's
That's mixed use.
yeah. So I think the idea was to come off of McCard with some town center use.
Good idea, but
Townhomes, senior housing, restaurants, community service, commercial, professional office, live work units.
looks like manufacturing, office.
Professional services and industrial,
Professional services,
or how about a mixed use, mixed use?
Mixed use is
Well,
already
it's
on the
already
corner.
mixed use.
Just
So
this
what do you
one.
see?
I mean, if I think about
So
the
what?
apartment complex, the multifamily to the north, and when they came in for zoning in 2015, 2015, I think it was, and we sent them packing 5 different times, and they just wore us out. They finally let it happen, the multifamily, but it was under the premise that the entire frontage and, you know, the L shape was going to be commercial. And the only thing that's happened is one office building with one tenant.
Yeah.
There's no need for.
You also have the proposed Max Road going north there.
Is it hitting right there?
It's next to it. It's gonna be
I
here.
just don't see it. I mean, from a commercial standpoint, I don't see that. On that hard corner of Cullen and McHard, I think you're gonna get commercial, but off that corner, you're not. Is it town?
More compact?
Oh, wow.
More
Okay, I'm
compact?
looking at that.
I was about to say
I
more,
would think so.
some type of residential.
I think so.
Yeah.
Say again?
Townhomes over there now, right?
Urban living.
Yeah,
No.
Urban living.
compact or something.
You have the creek and, you know.
If they already got space and they're not doing any commercial, it doesn't make sense to put
It's a
anything.
townhome of rentable
somewhere
hotels.
Was it Jim Jones?
Yeah, St. John's.
James Jones.
We're throwing around urban living over here for that area. How do y'all feel about urban living there?
In there?
It's more compact than compact
Compact.
residential.
I'd be fine with that.
Yeah,
What part?
I think we actually even talked about that.
yeah.
Well, we have 4.
You're welcome. Just may spur some thoughts to see them right here in front
Oh,
of
thank
This is
you.
You're welcome, yeah.
I'm not sure.
We could also take a 5-minute break.
And
Yeah, why don't we do that? Why don't we take a 5-minute break? We'll come back at 7:25.
Glad Henry mentioned it.
We'll go ahead and get started, 7:25, pick back up.
so I'm gonna come back to item 7. We'll skip to item 8. This is Lotta's comment on how will frontage along Beltway 8 be addressed? Will there be enhanced standards?
And I'm just probably, I don't know if you've addressed that anywhere, but I'm just, because it's all manufacturing, are we focusing on what should the city look like from that way? Because you're talking about character districts, right?
Right.
I was just wondering, what character is this manufacturing? And does it specifically address Beltway 8, or is it just like generics?
Is that part of the Lower Kirby District
Yes.
zoning
Oh, I
restrictions
don't know
and
if it's
requirements?
part of
Because
the
see, they're gonna,
zoning.
Yeah, so it's a PUD, right?
yeah, they're gonna have some pretty, Matt's got
The
some,
Spectrum District.
yeah, Matt's got some pretty strict requirements, I think,
So I
built
think it's
in.
probably also going to be some kind of a corridor along that, or?
Right, so the
Yeah.
properties that front onto the Beltway there will have corridor overlay district standards.
That's all I need, okay,
Yeah.
good. Oh, see, I told you.
Next.
Okay, this one, Lotta, you said down here off of Magnolia between Kirby.
Right, so that's, yeah, that's now, it's not shown as green, but the county and the HOA put in a nice soccer, I think it's a soccer field with some wetlands and then a nice walking trail. So at the minimum, it should be similar to other Southern Trails area that you have if you zoom out. So it's either between a parks and open space or a natural areas and outdoor tourism. That was my question, if I may jump to that natural areas and outdoor tourism. I saw like, if you go north to where you are, that the Southern Trails, that area is designated as natural areas and outdoor tourism. And I wasn't sure if, when you say outdoor tourism, are you thinking people from outside are going to go there? Because that doesn't attract people from outside.
No,
It's a
it just
neighborhood
means that
pocket
it's
park.
not,
Oh, okay, then
it's
it's
not a
fine.
manicured park.
Okay, so then.
But it's also not developable as single-family
Right,
residential.
okay. So then the only change would be that dot needs to just be probably the same thing.
Right here.
Natural, yeah. It's a combination, like I said, they did a good job. It's like the Shadow Creek Park, Henry, where it's also detention, but it's also a soccer.
yes,
And they
yes,
have
yes,
nice
yes,
walking trails and, like I said, wetlands and stuff like that.
Is it behind the
Isn't
single
it the
family?
property to the north? Yeah, that one.
Yeah, that's the
Pond
pond
is like
area.
attention.
Yeah, that's the one, yeah. That's
And
the
look,
one.
it
My
says a
dot is
trail
off.
around this lake.
See, that's a private property.
That's a
Yeah,
house.
Martin, you're right. My dot is off. It's that one.
Because this came in for.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
so my
Yeah,
dot
so it
is
needs to
off,
be
it's
this
the top,
The
yeah.
black.
It's
Yeah.
above it.
That's one, that's the one.
There's like a lot of,
Yeah,
That's
so that's
property,
the dot
that's-
is down, yeah.
that's not developed as a part.
Yeah, that somebody lives there, right?
Okay, item 10. Lana takes us back over on the east side to Pearland Parkway and Broadway.
What
And the
did I
comment is, consider allowing urban residential and commercial zones as a true mixed-use setting. Will allow for more walkable, livable centers.
That's
So-
the Pearland Parkway corridor. If my dot is off, I'm sorry.
No, that's it.
Yeah. Just seeing, I mean, it's such a nice area now, so maybe, because the corner, portions of it is undeveloped, right?
Yeah.
Where Kroger's was gonna go, and so there might be some possibility to allow more.
So early on in the process for this one, we had talked about Broadway in general and maybe making like almost a buffer around Broadway and calling it like mixed use in order to further
Yeah.
that. And I think we went back to this Catalyst site that's off of Cullen and Broadway and said, let's start there. And then as it creeps out, like we can change it in the future. But I mean, absolutely, if there are spots around here that you think that would be more suitable to mixed use, we could
Because that's
change
where
it to
the
mixed
trail
use.
system also goes, and people can hop on and,
That's across the street though, right?
right,
The other
but
side
you
of
can
Grounds
walk to
Parkway.
the trail from there and,
It's
yeah.
an easy walk.
So, yeah, and just a thought, because I just found that's one area where you could have some nice residential.
So are we considering a change to the plan, to the map here?
I think these two areas are
Yeah.
where you'd have that mixed use
Yeah.
opportunity.
So you're saying makes you should go there?
So
Yeah, mixed
You're-
use center, which would allow some.
Okay.
Well, and, yeah, so you're saying mixed use in that area? Would that
Which
be?
would allow some urban living, right? That would be a secondary use.
Yes, that land is actively for sale.
Yeah,
The Settegas family, not to get too in the weeds, but Settegas family is now out of their squabble,
yeah,
and the bulk, the 25 acres there is for sale.
yeah,
They own some land across the street.
yeah.
The challenge is, how do you develop, there's no more big boxes wanting to come in this retail environment, or, you know,
Right.
with Amazon, who wants to spend a lot of money on a
Right.
big box? So honestly, it's going to be either a multifamily or a heavy-duty townhome project that goes back there, and then the frontage would remain retail. I mean, I think that's what's going to
All
happen
that
there,
would be permitted in a mixed use center.
and I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think that other one is stagnated because that Kroger's is in and out, depending
Yeah.
on what week it is. But it's tough. We've had a church this goes back a lot
I
to
remember
our
the
days in
church.
2012 and 13, and there are people that were protesting, right? So,
So are we talking that where it stops, yeah, that whole thing?
That whole corner.
That whole view?
There, make
Okay.
a horseshoe out of it.
To me, that's such a prime site, that something nice can go
Absolutely.
there.
now with Berry Rose going through to Hughes,
Yeah.
it
And all
totally
that residential now, they have rooftops.
tops to support it, so 100%.
Okay.
Why couldn't we agree
Ron had
on
a
this on
comment to show the
2000?
city boundaries on the map. We don't show the city limit boundaries on this map, just for clarity.
Yeah,
at this
because
point.
that got me confused, so I was thinking, the reason it's important is we can only zone what's inside the city limits, so just
Correct.
whoever is looking at it needs to be cognizant and not get too caught up with what's happening outside the city limits.
Sure.
So just, it's always helpful.
I think our current land use plan,
It extends beyond the city.
yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, you can still have future land use in the ETJ.
That's what I'm saying,
But
that,
it's
yeah,
just a helpful,
yeah,
okay.
because.
Lada's comment 12 has, if other amenitized detention areas are shown as green, maybe this should be included with the trail link.
I'm always confused between those two categories, so just to see that,
Yeah.
that's a big amenity there.
Yeah, we can make that change.
Where are we?
The only
We are
reason that
off
was
of
different is
Fair
because all that
Miller
natural.
Ranch.
Broadway.
Yes.
Because Miller, that has trails around,
That big cherry?
yeah.
Old Cherry site?
Not Old Cherry, this is.
This is
Miller Ranch,
Autumn Lakes?
Autumn Lakes,
Okay,
beautiful.
sure. Oh, yeah, that's a beautiful lake.
Yeah.
Wonder how deep
And
that
you can
is.
walk around.
Oh, yeah.
Lotta's comment 13 here on the corner of Magnolia Parkway and Manville Road. This has developed and is a mixed-use area. Is there a need to show categories for each parcel?
So my question was like, if it's in a conceptual land use plan at 30,000, when you see something like that, can we just not call it mixed use because you have townhomes, you have a CVS? I mean, to me, that's such a great example. So
We can do that.
why are we, focusing on zoning here? Well, overall, it's a mixed use concept.
I would extend that comment to the west
Right.
for that whole tract.
Yep, yep.
It just makes us look better on the map that we have
Even
all
to the
these mixed
north.
uses.
What is it, what's the orange?
Urban living.
Yeah. And those towns.
We can put that in there
those
too.
are neat, though.
What street is that?
That's the one that,
Magnolia and.
Isn't that the one we just did?
yeah.
Yeah.
To the west is.
Yeah.
Right.
So to this though, the true, if you look at these subject pictures of mixed use, it's in one structure. It's retail on the bottom with residential on the top.
Is that
This
the definition of your mixed use?
No.
It is inclusive of other things, but it definitely has that element as what the template is.
Right, and we struggle with that, like how, to me, this is okay to, if we don't get vertical mixes, at least have adjacent so that you can walk to that.
Well, and I think mixed use in our former vernacular was throw some retail in with some compact
Because
residential.
this was
That-
a PD, wasn't it?
Mhm.
Yeah, so we
Midtown
kind of
Magnolia.
looked at it like a mixed-use PD.
Exactly,
Yeah.
but again, mixed use isn't what mixed use means today under these definitions. So I have a problem separating the two.
Okay, comment 14.
Like, I'm just taking credit for what we have done in the past so that it shows up on the map.
This is a drainage ditch, not sure we classify as natural area tourism. It's
It's
well, once
along the
again-
highway, right?
Yeah, but once again, it's
Where?
not a park as a,
Because it's a drainage ditch. so-
yeah, it's more of just a unmanicured area
Okay.
versus a.
Okay,
Now, I might say though that hopefully the drainage district is keeping this probably, it's a trapezoidal channel with, looks like concrete slope pavement with corner.
it's fenced
Let's
off.
just call it all
It's
park.
going to be,
Yeah,
I would almost say it's more of public use, like detention than it
yeah,
is.
because and unfortunately it's fenced off, but fortunately because there's a dog park and you don't want the dogs running into the highway too much, so.
Oh, wait, this is
That's
a
the
dog
west
park?
side park. That's the whole park. isn't it?
Right, it's just the
Well,
area
just center.
along the
Yeah.
highway where the actual drainage ditch is.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is.
We can just call it all
Yeah,
park.
that's fine,
And then
then
this is something else that's not manicured park space.
Yeah.
I mean, I could argue this could be public use.
They won't do it but once.
I mean, either one, like I said, I wasn't clear about your definition.
We'll just call it
I
all
mean, I
park.
would say that's similar
It's
to
gonna
a
be cleaner.
drainage channel in a green space in a neighborhood. How would you classify that?
Either way is fine.
Kinda keep it
Subsidiary
same.
adjacent uses.
Yeah.
It just happens to be.
Now that
in
clear
this lot.
distinction.
I think you can
I just
leave it
call
the
it
way
park.
it is, now I understand the definition better, so. Because I was clubbing it with outdoor tourism.
I think it's cleaner to put it all as a park anyway.
Why take the drainage out of
Okay,
That's for
Lonnie's
consistency.
comment number
Changes things to spot.
15 is located near 288 and Shadow Creek on the,
Northwest
it? Yeah,
border.
so, the interchanges, right, like with the same token, those look really nice. I mean, so do you want to call them some kind of natural, it's park, it's natural area, nothing is going to develop, and this is a big part
there's
of our
gonna be no
community.
structures here, so it really shouldn't count
So-
on my commercial
Yeah,
percentages. I agree with that. Maybe public use because it's just, it's an
Yeah.
interchange.
Yeah.
So it's not, it doesn't necessarily need to count towards commercial use.
Available commercial space, right?
Yeah,
Right.
so that whole interchange, Josie, I would say.
Yep.
Good
And
point.
I think the reason behind that is because it's actually labeled as, well, it's not labeled as, but it's considered right-of-way, right? So
It's text on.
for the rest of the areas, we weren't really splitting hairs as to what right-of-way was which category, but I think this one is large enough where it should be.
Southeast corner of, I think you're there. The
Broadway, this is
southeast
Broadway.
corner, southeast corner is also,
On the
on that interchange with Broadway is also public use.
And same thing with
That's southwest
Beltray
corner.
8, right? Did we do improvements there?
Yeah,
too?
EDC did all that,
Yeah.
and they're doing
It's
this.
really nice.
From the management district and
Yeah.
TxDOT and the Toll Road Authority and county and all that.
So 3 out of 4 corners.
They jumped back and forth.
So you're gonna change this to public use?
Yeah.
Okay.
3 out of 4 corners, one of.
I don't know, so I'm not sure if it's correct.
And then, looks like
What
we
is that?
classified, this is Navarra?
Yeah.
That's what-
So is it a mixed-use center there?
What is all that?
This is
Isn't
north
that,
of Silver Lake, Edgewater.
That's a mess.
Isn't
Yeah.
that mobile homes or something, that
Oh.
whole street?
Wait, I'm sorry,
No,
I
no,
thought
no,
we
no.
were north
No.
of,
That's,
We're south of Broadway.
you were,
and north of
past
Fight Road.
Silver Lake.
North of
there's
Fight
that
Road.
one
Quite to
little,
Cullen.
Yeah.
private drive.
So the
No,
thought,
there's no,
the
no,
thought
there-
behind this one was the catalyst area.
Um,
What
So
is
we
it,
were-
like, just?
well, school district owns some land there, so it's never stagnant right now.
It's north of where I used to, north of where Susan used to live, right?
Correct,
Is that
correct,
Edgewater Estates?
correct.
Yeah, that's why I question why, if there's mixed use there or not.
It right now is large lot type stuff, 3 and 4 acres, and then there's some 20 and 40 acre owners, and they're just sitting on it.
Yeah.
There's a drainage issue, which is the problem
So the
there.
question is, do we want it to be mixed use in the future there?
So this was, like Josie mentioned, one of the catalyst sites, so this was an attempt to add some of that variety and show this as a, you know, a different type of development.
And I would say that from a staff perspective, if this were adopted in its current form and fashion, and we had a development come in that did not meet the exact location, we would bring up all of the various uses and all of the various things there and talk about how it is meant to be a catalyst site, and that the vision was certain growth and expectations were desired for this area
So how is
So,
it accessed though?
for Broadway.
What's from Broadway?
Because they're primarily large 20-acre tracts. So in defense of this, I wouldn't necessarily say let's do it all one brushstroke, because we do want something creative, innovative, interesting there.
So let
One
me- can
paintbrush
you
stroke isn't
zoom
gonna
in?
get us creative, innovative, interesting.
Where's broadband? Just-
No, if you allowed multifamily in there, if you allowed compact residential, if you allowed urban living, you would have that site developed a lot sooner than traditional, because
Right.
traditional can't afford it right now with the constraints of the drainage.
You have all
Yeah.
those elements here.
That's fine.
That's,
then.
I would leave it like that, then
Because
that's,
it was a sliver there, so.
as long as we all understand that, when,
Yeah.
when it comes, what my concern is, 5 years from now, we're all gone, or all of us but one, and, is there gonna be that documentation that says this? Or is
That'll
this
be
a-
within the section of the comp plan that talks about the catalyst sites.
Right,
Perfect.
okay,
That's
Yeah.
what I want to do.
that's good, yeah, that's good, then. We can, I didn't realize it was a catalyst.
Yep. Okay, so last two comments, is this truly open space or park? To get a true picture of usable developed open space and parks, consider removing open space
Again,
used
it
for
goes,
utilities
yeah.
from this category.
Percentages, right? So if all the utilities are marked as open space, then they really be considered as open space?
So in this case, it's a drainage easement?
Yeah, that's a huge, so I wasn't sure.
It's a center point easement, and the
Yeah.
reason we marked this one was to just show how it could connect some of this area up here. So
Trail-wise.
we
So
didn't go
future.
through and find all of them.
Center Point Trail project?
And one of the not priority, but one of the action items was to discuss partnering with CenterPoint to
Got it.
provide additional open space.
Makes sense, yeah, that's fine.
Okay. And the last comment.
I keep going back to your category. I got it now. I was very confused about outdoor tourism.
That's why we need to meet, yeah, no worries. So we're located here to the north, almost to, just past Shadow Creek,
Just southeast of Lonza.
and then looks like that's the detention pond.
To
So
me-
that may be a good one to say. Does this have trails around it?
Yes,
Yes,
and
it
there is
does.
a creek, and it's really, really
And they're
natural.
expanding,
Like,
they're
it's
expanding the
beautiful out
detention.
there.
It's got, what's it called, detention?
Yeah.
That red line right there, there's.
Clear Creek.
Yeah, there's all kinds of detention.
And people actually come from outside the city
Yeah.
to walk there and bike there.
Yeah,
So that
and they go
is
through
beautiful.
from Monza and Kelsey-Seybold, and they walk that trail and go to the restaurants and stuff all the time.
The new outdoors, the center where they,
Yeah.
what is it called? There's parking there
Used
and
to
you
be,
can walk
yeah.
up to it, yeah.
Used to be
Sports
Polish.
center.
The EDC did it.
Yeah,
Ivy District?
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, the Ivy
interestingly,
District,
it was
oh, yeah.
also part of private developers. It was in our master plan as being a trail, so we were able to ask Kelsey-Seybold and HEB and all to contribute and build their share of the trail,
Yeah.
just like you would do in a thoroughfare now, so.
You guys did.
Lot of
it. Y'all did Shadow
contribution,
Creek over
yeah.
there, didn't you?
Good
Yeah.
stuff that was on the plan. Helps make it happen.
Yes.
That was the last of your comments.
bad,
So I'll
right?
return
Not
to
bad.
Henry's that we got stuck on previously about town center
Yeah.
over here on the card.
Unfortunately, I have to leave, but great session though.
Thanks for all your
Thank
Thanks
you.
for coming,
Thanks-
Lana.
Thanks for all your
You
questions.
did send this, right? One thing I should take.
Thanks for
I can
expediting
send
things.
Yeah.
No, it
So
helps.
returning to item 7, this is back to McCard between Cullen and Stone. And we have mixed use to the west, we have compact residential to the north. And then this is too large of an area showing as town center probably. I mean, one of the items is that we really don't show enough town center anywhere in the future land use plan. And this was an attempt to try to at least paint a picture with some of that color somewhere, but if this needs to be something else, Henry, what would you propose?
I think Martin said compact residential.
For the whole thing?
It's as good as any. It allows for some secondary uses.
Yeah, I'm
Already
talking
has
about
use
urban
already.
living.
What?
You're talking about urban.
Urban living, I'm sorry, you're right.
Okay. So from McCard all the way, this whole piece that's called town center right now. You got
Is
it?
the orange urban living? Yeah, it is.
Yes.
And it makes sense because Cullen has some pretty good access.
Yeah.
So providing additional density there isn't.
You get somebody to do it, go for it.
So it looks like there's already things in there.
I guess we don't know what's already built.
Oh, I thought the homes to the north.
It's industrial.
I think this is just some older homes. That takes us through the comments presented online. So now we would change, do you have any comments you didn't get around to putting online that we need to discuss?
No, Henry doesn't.
The chair has spoken.
So there was public comment about wanting another town center somewhere else in the city. Is that something that we want to discuss where that might go if there needs to be another one?
I feel like where Bass Pro Shop is, that development that is
Coming.
coming, I feel like that is your town center on steroids.
Yeah.
If you get all of that right there.
Instead
So I'm
of-
open to other places, but yeah.
It's a new quest
And it's right off of the Beltway, so I feel like that's perfect.
Yeah, whether that's where you want it or not, that's where it's going.
Yeah, I mean, that's a
Yeah.
nice access point.
And I
Right now, we
do,
have that as
Freeways.
mixed use.
Yeah.
and I think that the question was brought up earlier in this process about what the difference is between town center and mixed use, because they are fairly similar. And I think the answer was town center really has like a specific identity, and I think this area would fall into that. So
Yep.
it's not necessarily a town center like your current town center looks, it's just that it's a bunch of mixed use that has an identity as a definable place.
And that's what they pitched to us.
Yeah.
It was a place like that. So
And
that's a
and
great
they had
call.
walkable.
So
and
Josie,
all that stuff.
Martin was kind of drawing a line at Spectrum Boulevard and saying, reclassify everything north of this as town center and just leave this bit down here as mixed use.
Yep.
Everybody
Yeah.
good with that?
Yeah, that's good. Good job, Martin.
I try.
That helps because removing this amount of town center, we still keep some, probably even gain a few acres.
Yeah, I mean, people are, I mean, the point in conversation is they would love to have something on the east side, but where are you gonna do that? I mean, and typically, people east go to Bay Brook Mall and that area, whether you like it or not, that's what happens. About Cullen, they go east for about 35.
Well, you can, I mean, to drive from my house off of Dixie Farm, to go over there, I'm looking at 35 minutes to 40 minutes to get over there, any way I go. I can be at Bay Brook in 15 minutes.
Yep.
Yeah. So we used to call them malls in our day, right?
Yeah.
I mean, now we want to call them town centers. They're regional. You know, when the current town center, I was fortunate to see their draw map where they thought people were going to come from, and it was almost to Lake Jackson. Strangely enough, it does attract people from Lake Jackson, but it went up to 610, you know, along the 288. It's corridor driven, it's freeway driven. You can't put one, I mean, the logical place for a true one to have been Broadway and Park Place, where the HEB is. You know, that was the open piece of land 10 years ago that could have changed and been something big. But there still isn't enough drive count. There's not enough regional support, easy access to get there. So it was never going to be anything more than it is.
Wait till
So-
Manville and Alacali comes in and cuts all that in half.
The one thing that I will say is that we really don't show 99 coming through here, the Grand Parkway. So it comes through on 35 in Alvin, and League City is beginning to develop this last remaining master plan lots through here.
Yeah.
And Grand Parkway goes right through it. They're gonna extend Bay Area Boulevard to connect down. There's talk of extending it further down to connect to 6. So, you know, one of the things that's kind of defined Pearland moving forward is that you have the Beltway on the north. And
Yes.
so there's a magnet of everything kind of draws to the north. Well, you're about to get at least approximately to your south a significant highway, you know, in the 50-year time frame that we're talking about. And so some of this connection of 35, as it becomes an attachment to Grand Parkway, may draw a little bit more of that, what Beltway 8 does on the north to the south. And so that's one of the reasons why we were looking for places around here to put some town center to the south. It may not, one, it kind of checks the box if it's on the east side of the city, and the second one is, this is definitely it's an ETJ right now. It's going to be professional service industrial. That makes sense.
Oil and pipeline issues.
It's got the lines running all over the place. But it's just some hard corner to find somewhere to put town center in this area.
What about that
It would be
place?
at Dixie Farm in 35.
What about
Once
that
Dixie Farm
parcel we
goes
were
through.
talking about earlier next to the manufacturing warehouse? Is that too close to manufacturing warehouse?
For town center,
Yeah.
I mean, it's not heavy manufacturing, right? It's pipe.
It's a lay down yard.
It's not like, I used to live near Charlotte Pipe, and they were actually making it there, and there was an odor.
Oh, yeah, it is. Burnt steel.
Yeah, so it's not like active that, it's more of storage space, and so it's noise, it's
Trucks.
it's a lot of truck traffic, but they're mostly coming in and out on 35.
Which is why the school doesn't want anything like that going in anywhere else.
Yeah, they don't want to increase the traffic worse than it already is by the of the school.
See, I think you're,
But one thing we heard from the school on the west side, close to the town center, was that they liked having the town center there because students had something to do after school.
Trouble.
About go home
That
and
was the other
study.
comment we heard, yeah, that's fair.
Well, I mean, so you do have, ooh, Josie,
Through
just
the
in
water.
time, your battery's learning low.
I have the
Lower
charger.
quadrant of the
I
education
think we're probably close enough if you got a few minutes on the charge. You got 24 minutes according to the
Okay.
thingy.
there's no cutoff.
But you got commercial right here.
I mean, if you look at Dixie Farm where it hits 35, there's talk about having, there you go. There's talk about having that Dixie Farm go through and then cross over the railroad track and combine into McKeever. They're putting a TERS together to take a look at it. I think the city nixed it because of the population rule, but the county's looking at it now.
Something like this.
Right, and so right there, in one of those intersections, you might get something big, because, you know, at least it's Main and Main.
It'd have to be something big to do
But still, there's just
cleanup.
there's not the rooftops, there's,
That's 13 acres of commercial right there.
But
I mean, like,
as we currently show it, it would be surrounded by professional services and industrial.
yeah.
And we push, EDC pushes users down 35 because that's the biggest pieces of industrial property left. And it's just, it's gotta be cleaned up and there's a huge cost to that. You know, it's gotta be a big somebody, Amazon kind of thing, but those aren't happening anymore.
it needs infrastructure, there's also residents, because it's ETJ, they've already established there. I mean, that's just, you
Yeah, I don't even know if there's water out there or
screwed it up. No, they're
anything.
all in septic,
Yeah.
wells and septic. Probably bottled water. I mean, I think you're trying to force a square peg into a round hole by putting a town center on the east side.
I mean,
People would love it, but
admittedly we are, but if we don't at least try, we will never, it'll never make the map, and it'll never have a vision for it happening in some place.
yeah.
So, what if it couldn't be like the catalyst site and then the site by Bass Pro that's kind of still labeled a mixed use? What if, even if it couldn't be labeled town center, you label it mixed use to allow for different types of commercial or whatever the case may be since you said that it'll be additional traffic or an access point there?
Yeah, and I mean, I think specifically since 35, pieces of 35 through Alvin will be 99, so this corridor will be your connection to the south to 99. So that makes sense to me.
It's just not called a town center though, it's
You're
just mixed
saying
use.
that land right there?
I'm saying if he's trying to ideally put a town center there and we're saying that that's not working, I'm proposing, would we be open to mixed use there, or are we saying that's probably not gonna be any good either?
I think you're more likely to have mixed use than you are town center.
And Josie, review, we put commercial for a strip from here over, and what do we end up with on this piece?
Business park,
Business park, and then here compact residential?
compact residential.
So maybe change that compact residential to more urban living, and then there's your east side town center.
Mixed use, yeah.
Mixed use art, or mixed use not urban living. Is that,
Either one,
Work for y'all?
okay, so we'll, did you
Mixed-
bring your
mixed-
white out?
Mixed use to me is, if I understood you correctly, is retail on the bottom and then living on top.
That's
That's
the
one of
ideal
them.
model, but it does include normal commercial, senior housing, hotels, entertainment center. It's a big broad definition, but the
Okay.
vision model would be
It
true
does
mixed use
specify,
in one structure.
under character intent, it does specify vertical mixed-use buildings typically stand at least 2 stories tall, with residents and offices on top of storefronts.
Yeah, so that's in the model, but if you actually read the primary and secondary land uses, there's a lot of variety of mixed use.
Got it?
But that'd be the vision, to try to get
Amazing.
to that, some of that.
Yeah.
And there's your town center if you have that.
Got it?
Work for
I mean, I'm
y'all?
thinking more like, if you know Knox Henderson in Dallas, you know,
Mm-hmm.
Baby Gap on the ground floor and 3 stories of apartments.
It's usually in highly dense areas, but if they want to put one on the
Put it in the
map,
middle of a cow pasture.
might as well be there.
Yeah, I don't think that would fit there, but you could try.
I mean, that's a Heights or a.
Yeah. Memorial or,
Memorial,
yeah,
Rice
Rice
Military,
Village,
yeah,
yeah.
you have all that.
I'd love it to go there, but it ain't.
Was that all of them?
Okay, that's all the comments we had, unless somebody had additional thoughts.
You can't be serious at 7:59. I mean, there's no
Martin,
way,
that's the last bit we had for the agenda for tonight.
there's no way that works.
I did have just one more question
Oh,
for
no,
you.
Josie.
Just one, it's blanket across, it's not site specific.
I'm gonna get a knife out.
Martin brought up earlier trying to make it more uniform. So originally when we did this, we did sort of a GIS analysis, which left, you can see like pockets where traditional residential is mixed in with what we're calling compact residential. Would y'all be okay with us doing like compact residential where those holes are?
You fill in the
If you
gaps.
fill it in.
Fill it
sure.
in.
I was gonna say, there's some massaging that needs to
Sure,
happen.
sure, please.
To be able to make the map look a little cleaner.
Yeah,
That's fine.
I've got
Well, it's
half
like this
dozen
right
of
here.
those labeled out.
yeah. They
It's
bother
like
me.
this right here. where it's-
Yeah, gaps.
There's
in the
gaps
wall.
in the.
If y'all are comfortable with the two of us doing that,
Sure.
we'll,
More so than the public. Your backgrounds are much more qualified than,
Yeah, because public, they wanted town centers everywhere.
Yeah.
who said that?
All right. Anything else from anybody? Really? Bueller? All right. Well, officially adjourned at 8 o'clock on the button.